Have you ever noticed how the most ruthless people seem to move forward, while the kind ones stay behind, confused, exhausted, wondering what they did wrong? What if the problem was never your effort, but your nature? And what if today, calmly, without shouting, without hype, I showed you how to stop being eaten alive by the world and start moving through it with quiet power? Stay with me, because this will change how you see people forever. I am Dr. Adam. This is Psychology Unlocked. And if you are a thinking adult who feels surrounded by noise, pressure, manipulation, and silent competition, this channel is for you. Now listen carefully. Machiavelli never asked you to be cruel. He asked you to be accurate. The world is not a classroom. It is not fair. It is not kind. And it does not reward good intentions. It rewards perception, timing, control. Psychology teaches us something uncomfortable. Most humans operate on instinct, not reason. They follow signals, strength, weakness, certainty, hesitation. They sense it before they understand it, and they react automatically. This is where the metaphor of the wolf among sheep begins. A sheep believes safety comes from blending in. A wolf understands safety comes from awareness. Most people move through life trying to be liked. They soften their voice, explain themselves too much, apologize when they are not wrong, give access too quickly, trust too early. Not because they are stupid, but because they were taught that goodness equals protection. Psychology says otherwise. When you signal softness in a competitive environment, you do not invite respect, you invite testing. Subtle at first, a joke at your expense, a boundary crossed just a little, a request that should have been optional but suddenly feels mandatory. And you feel it, don't you? That quiet pressure in the chest. That moment where you think, I should say something, but you don't. The sheep stays silent. The wolf notices. Being a wolf does not mean attacking. It means seeing. Machiavelli understood something modern psychology later confirmed. Humans unconsciously rank each other within seconds. Before words, before logic, through posture, pace, eye contact, silence, through what you tolerate. The wolf among sheep is not loud, not aggressive, not chaotic. He is calm. He speaks slower than the room. He pauses and lets silence work for him. He does not rush to fill gaps or explain motives or seek approval. This alone changes everything, because most people are uncomfortable with silence. They rush to fix it. They reveal themselves inside it, their fears, their intentions, their neediness. A wolf lets them talk. Notice how powerful that is. Psychology calls this asymmetry of information. Machiavelli called it leverage. When you speak less, you see more. When you react less, you control more. The sheep reacts emotionally. The wolf responds strategically. And this is where many people misunderstand Machiavelli. They think he promotes deception. In reality, he promotes emotional discipline. He knew that the person who controls their expression controls the interaction. Think about this. When someone insults you and you immediately defend yourself, who is leading? When someone ignores you and you chase clarity, who holds power? When someone withdraws and you panic, who decides the outcome? Psychology is cruel here. Power flows toward the less emotionally invested. The wolf understands this instinctively. He does not reward disrespect with attention. He does not negotiate his boundaries. He does not explain himself to people who have not earned context. Not because he is cold, but because he is precise. Precision is kindness to yourself. Most adults fail not because they lack intelligence, but because they leak emotion. They show too much, too early, to people who have not proven alignment. And the world, sensing this, adjusts accordingly. Machiavelli warned against this centuries ago. Modern psychology confirms it daily. When people know what hurts you, they press it. When they know what you need, they withhold it. When they sense your fear of loss, they create scarcity. The wolf removes these levers. He becomes unreadable. Not mysterious, just regulated. You see, emotional control is not suppression. It is selectivity. You still feel deeply. You just don't broadcast. This is why wolves often appear misunderstood. People call them distant, cold, arrogant, but what they really are is unavailable for manipulation. And that makes insecure people uncomfortable. So they test harder, they provoke, they gossip, they push. And here is a mistake sheep make. They think this means they should soften further. No, this is the moment where the wolf does nothing. No reaction, no defense, no explanation. Psychology shows that unreciprocated provocation collapses. It has nowhere to land. The attacker grows restless. The manipulator reveals impatience. The insecure expose themselves. And you stay centered. Machiavelli would say, never interrupt your opponent while they are making a mistake. But notice, this is not about enemies. This is about everyday life, work, relationships, family, social dynamics. The wolf among sheep does not seek dominance. He simply refuses submission. And that refusal alone reshapes how people treat you. Because humans, whether they admit it or not, constantly ask one question. What can I get away with here? The wolf answers without words. Very little. And here is the paradox. Once you stop trying to be liked, you become respected. Once you stop chasing validation, you become magnetic. Once you stop explaining, people start listening. This is not motivation. This is psychology. And in the next movement of this talk, we will go deeper into how the wolf thinks internally, how he trains his mind to stay calm under pressure, how he detaches from emotional chaos without becoming empty, and why this mindset quietly terrifies people who rely on control. Stay with me. There is a moment, usually quiet, when a person realizes something unsettling. The world does not respond to who you are inside. It responds to what you project under pressure. This is where the wolf is forged. Not in confidence seminars, not in loud affirmations, but in internal restraint. Machiavelli understood that the greatest battlefield is invisible, inside the mind. Modern psychology agrees. Emotional regulation is the single strongest predictor of influence, leadership, and long-term survival in complex social systems. Most people believe power comes from action. The wolf knows power comes from non-reaction. Think about how often you feel the urge to correct someone, to defend your position, to explain your intentions, to clarify a misunderstanding immediately, desperately, before it grows. That urge is fear. Fear of losing image, fear of losing control. The sheep obeys that fear. The wolf studies it. Inside the wolf's mind, there is a rule that feels unnatural at first. Delay is dominance. When something triggers you and you do nothing, the nervous system settles. Cortisol drops. The prefrontal cortex comes back online. You regain access to strategy instead of instinct. Psychology calls this impulse inhibition. Machiavelli would simply call it intelligence. The wolf trains himself to pause, even when his ego burns, especially then. Because reacting immediately feels powerful, but it hands the steering wheel to the other person. Silence, on the other hand, creates a vacuum, and humans hate vacuums. They rush to fill them. They over-explain. They expose motives. They reveal insecurities. They escalate emotionally while you stay still. This imbalance is everything. The wolf does not rush clarity. He lets confusion work on his behalf. Notice how often people try to provoke certainty from you. Are you upset? What do you think about this? Why didn't you reply? Where do I stand with you? These questions are not always innocent. Often, they are attempts to regain control. The sheep answers immediately. The wolf answers when it serves him, or not at all. This is not cruelty. This is boundaries. Psychology shows that unpredictable reinforcement creates attachment and respect. Predictable availability creates familiarity, and familiarity erodes authority. The wolf understands this deeply. He does not give emotional access freely. He does not reward entitlement. He does not negotiate with pressure. Instead, he stays consistent with himself. And here is the hardest part for most adults to accept. You will be misunderstood. People will project onto you. They will assume intentions you never had. They will label your calm as arrogance, your silence as guilt, your boundaries as hostility. The sheep rushes to correct the narrative. The wolf lets time correct it, because time always favors emotional consistency. Machiavelli warned that trying to be seen as good by everyone is the fastest way to lose authority. Psychology reframes this. Humans trust coherence more than goodness. If your behavior is stable, calm, and aligned, people adjust. If it is reactive, apologetic, and inconsistent, they exploit. The wolf chooses coherence. This is why he appears slow, deliberate, almost detached, but inside, he is intensely aware. He notices tone shifts, microaggressions, subtle tests disguised as jokes, requests framed as expectations. And he responds not emotionally, but structurally. A boundary reinforced once, calmly, is remembered longer than 100 emotional arguments. The wolf does not raise his voice. He lowers access. That alone rewires dynamics. And something strange begins to happen. People start watching you. They wait for your reaction. They measure their words. They hesitate before crossing lines. Not because you threatened them, but because you stopped rewarding behavior that disrespected you. Psychology calls this operant conditioning. Machiavelli practiced it centuries ago without naming it. Reward what aligns. Ignore what doesn't. No lectures, no drama, no explanation marathons. Just consequences. This is where many people fail. They think consequences must be loud to be effective. Wrong. Quiet consequences are terrifying. Being removed from access, being excluded from attention, being met with indifference instead of emotion. The human brain interprets this as loss of status, and status loss hurts more than rejection. The wolf understands status intuitively. He does not chase, he does not beg, he does not prove. He positions. This applies to work, relationships, social circles, even family, especially family. You do not argue with disrespect. You step back from it. You do not compete for validation. You become self-sufficient in it. And here is the internal shift that changes everything. The wolf stops needing outcomes. Needing makes you predictable. Predictability makes you controllable. Psychology is clear on this. Attachment to outcomes increases anxiety, decreases performance, and signals dependency. The wolf focuses on process, presence, internal standards. He asks not, how do they see me, but am I aligned with myself? This detachment does not make him empty, it makes him stable. And stability is rare. Rare things are valued. In the next movement of this talk, we will examine the most dangerous misconception of all. The belief that being a wolf means being ruthless to others. We will break that illusion and reveal why true ruthlessness is internal, disciplined, and invisible, and how mastering it reshapes your entire psychology. At some point, every adult who walks this path confronts a dangerous misunderstanding. They think becoming a wolf means becoming hard, cold, detached from humanity. This is where most fail, because the wolf Machiavelli described was not violent. He was selective. Modern psychology supports this in a way most people ignore. Emotional strength is not numbness, it is containment. The sheep feels everything and shows everything. The fake wolf feels nothing and connects to nothing. The real wolf feels deeply and chooses carefully. This distinction matters more than any tactic, because the moment you start performing ruthlessness, people sense it. It becomes brittle, defensive, insecure, a mask that cracks under pressure. The wolf does not perform, he integrates. Internally, his mind is structured around one principle. Energy is finite. He does not waste it on proving points. He does not spend it on winning arguments. He does not leak it into people who drain without giving. Psychology calls this emotional economy. Machiavelli lived it instinctively. You begin to see how much of life is manipulation through exhaustion. Long conversations that go nowhere, repetitive conflicts, circular explanations, drama disguised as honesty. The sheep participates, hoping resolution will arrive. The wolf exits early. Not loudly, not angrily, just leaves. and that absence is felt. Here is something rarely said out loud. People respect boundaries they cannot move more than boundaries they are told about. When you explain a boundary, you invite negotiation. When you enforce it silently, you establish reality. This is not cruelty, it is clarity. The wolf does not need to say, "Do not treat me this way." He makes that treatment ineffective. Psychology shows that behavior not reinforced dies quickly. This is why wolves often attract intense reactions: love, hate, obsession, resentment, because they disrupt unconscious patterns. People who rely on guilt, pressure, or emotional chaos suddenly find their tools useless. And when tools stop working, panic follows. This is when accusations appear. You've changed. You're cold now. You think you're better than everyone. No, you simply stopped participating. Machiavelli warned that once you stop being useful to someone's manipulation, they will attack your character. Psychology reframes this as ego threat. When people lose control, they reframe the narrative to preserve self-image. The sheep rushes to defend reputation. The wolf protects position. He understands that reputation is fragile, but position is structural. You can rebuild a reputation. You cannot rebuild lost self-respect. This is why the wolf chooses discomfort now over regret later. He tolerates being misunderstood. He tolerates temporary loneliness. He tolerates silence. Because he knows something most adults never learn. Peace is expensive, and the price is saying no without explanation. The wolf does not isolate. He curates. This is crucial. He still connects, deeply, but only with those who show consistency, respect, emotional maturity. Psychology shows that selective vulnerability strengthens bonds more than total openness. When access is earned, it is valued. The wolf opens slowly. He watches how people handle small power, small trust, small boundaries. He notices who respects no, who pressures, who withdraws affection when they don't get their way. These are data points, not emotional events. The sheep personalizes, the wolf analyzes. And this analytical stance protects his inner world, because here is the quiet truth. Most emotional damage comes not from enemies, but from proximity, from allowing unstable people into intimate psychological space. The wolf does not fight chaos. He stays out of it. This alone feels revolutionary to many adults. You do not have to fix everyone. You do not have to explain yourself to everyone. You do not have to be available to everyone. This is not selfish. It is sane. Machiavelli understood that leadership begins with self-governance. If you cannot rule your inner state, others will rule it for you. Psychology confirms this relentlessly. Emotionally dysregulated people are easy to control. Regulated people are not. This is why the wolf invests more in internal discipline than external dominance. He trains his attention, his breathing, his posture, his tone, not to intimidate, but to stabilize. And that stability radiates. People feel safer around it, or threatened. There is rarely neutrality. And in the final movement of this talk, we will confront the ultimate consequence of becoming a wolf among sheep. The moment when you realize you no longer need to prove anything, and how this internal freedom changes your relationships, your decisions, and your identity at the deepest psychological level. There comes a moment, subtle, almost anticlimactic, when you realize something has shifted. Not outside, inside. You wake up and the urgency is gone. The need to explain, to convince, to chase understanding. It's quieter now. Not because life became easier, but because you became harder to destabilize. This is the final transformation. The wolf no longer measures himself through reaction. Praise does not inflate him. Criticism does not collapse him. Silence does not threaten him. Psychology calls this internal locus of control. Machiavelli would call it sovereignty. You stop asking, "How am I being perceived?" and start asking, "Am I moving with intention?" This changes everything. Decisions become slower, cleaner, less emotional. You do not rush opportunities. You evaluate them. You do not fear loss. You factor it. You do not cling to people. You observe alignment. The sheep lives in emotional immediacy. The wolf lives in temporal awareness. He thinks in months, years, consequences. And because of this, he begins to win quietly. Not flashy wins, structural wins. Better positioning at work, cleaner exits from toxic dynamics, fewer conflicts, but more decisive ones. People sense this shift. They feel that you are no longer available for games. They sense the pressure does not move you. They notice that you do not compete for attention. And something paradoxical happens. They come closer. Because humans are drawn to stability the way children are drawn to calm adults. It signals safety, authority, depth. Psychology shows that calm nervous systems regulate others around them. Your presence alone changes the emotional temperature of a room. The wolf does not dominate the room, he grounds it. This is the ultimate power Machiavelli hinted at, but never romanticized. Influence without force, respect without performance, distance without hostility. And here is the final truth, often misunderstood. The wolf does not despise the sheep. He simply refuses to live as one. He understands that most people are not malicious, just unconscious, driven by fear, approval-seeking, emotional hunger. So he does not judge them. He navigates around them. Compassion without compliance. Understanding without exposure. This balance is rare, and it is earned. You earn it by enduring misunderstanding without correction, by holding boundaries without explanation, by choosing inner order over outer approval. This path is not loud. It is lonely at first, then liberating. Because once you stop needing validation, no one can withhold it from you. Once you stop fearing rejection, no one can threaten you with it. Once you stop explaining yourself, people listen when you finally speak. This is not about becoming dangerous. It is about becoming unmovable. Machiavelli did not teach cruelty. He taught clarity. Psychology does not teach coldness. It teaches regulation. And when these two meet inside a disciplined adult mind, something rare is formed. A person who cannot be easily manipulated. A person who cannot be easily provoked. A person who walks through chaos untouched. The wolf among sheep. Not feared because he attacks, but respected because he does not need to. If this resonated with you, if you felt uncomfortable in the right way, reflective in the quiet way, then you already know. This is the work. I am Dr. Adam. This is Psychology Unlocked. And if you choose this path, walk it slowly, calmly, deliberately. Because the world does not need louder people. It needs regulated ones,